and use your mind and be something better. Be something that you're meant to be, not what this defines you as. If you're given an opportunity in prison to get a profession or certification or something, use that. If you're able to do the welding, use that. We need more welders. If you're able to do plumbing, figure that out and do that. We need more plumbers. Mr. Weaver pled guilty to counts 1, 3, 5, and 9 for burglary, count 14 of obstructing.
To start, this is not a probation case because Mr. Weaver, one, has been on probation before for drugs, and it has not resolved the issues that caused the criminal behavior yet. He's been on supervision or in the courts for about 17 years and is having very much the same behavioral issues that started 17 years ago. In fact, he was on the bond out of another county at the time this behavior happened. His convictions represent, therefore, a defiance of the court order designed to protect the public and that he was under bond. I am addicted to drugs. I can't beat my drug addiction on my own. I couldn't beat it on probation previously. My addiction to drugs led me to these burglaries. I keep associating with bad people. I have mental health issues. I've been trying to deal with them unsuccessfully for 17 years. Those statements go hand in hand with treatment in a confined setting, and that's prison. So to that end, this was multiple burglaries. In fact, one of the burglaries was done of the same victim, essentially a second time. He discovered it, fixed it up, and then they went in again. After he discovered the burglary and fixed the door. That's pretty aggravating. When we look at what they were really doing, they weren't really, a lot of our classic burglaries we see in this county, people know the cabins get unoccupied during a certain time of year. They break in, they steal what can be sold or traded easily. They run away to do so. They don't come back. Some of that happened here. Some of the property was never returned, but they were also living in one of the cabins and essentially foraging out of the cabins in the area, food, gas, shelter, etc. On the one hand, we could see how poverty is a cause of some of these decisions. On the other, when we look at how Weaver and Mortensen actually treated the properties they broke into, we see that they really didn't care about the people who owned them at all. They really trashed the properties. Sometimes we've seen burglaries that are truly for like homelessness in winter, avoid the elements, where people are much better about not destroying the property. And that says a lot about their mindset and thinking of the properties they were in. So we can't really look at this and just say they were homeless, they had nowhere to go, nothing to eat, and doing this to survive, because you wouldn't do all that damage to the property. And the trashing of them shows something about motivation. It took a certain level of indifference, is what I'm saying, to the victims to do what they did, and that should be accounted for as an aggravating factor. So by going along at the high end of the PSI recommendation here, it sends a message to other people in Mr. Weaver's position that streaks of burglaries don't get you a discount in term of penalty. So for those reasons, I'd ask the court to adopt that recommendation. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Clearly needs more psychological intervention, not only to deal with that grief, but the other issues that he endured in his childhood. So there's obviously rehabilitative needs to address. When speaking of the offenses, Mr. Weaver, not only did he acknowledge that he did what he did, but he also spoke about how he understood how the people would feel. And I think that speaks to having some empathy for them. And it's difficult to know if a person is pleading guilty to something. I mean, sure, the state or anybody can say, yes, you're saying you have remorse now because you're dealing with consequences. It's really hard to say when it's going to be taken as sincere and when it's not. But I think one of the statements he made to the PSI writer was very specific about how he understood how a homeowner would feel their loss of peace. That's certainly not something that he got from talking to me. So, The only thing I can imagine is that he did actually think about it and had some kind of understanding about how they might feel. So that is indicative of somebody who has thought about it to some extent. And so I do think that indicates sincerity. He
Can I say
is,
something?
well, you'll have your chance.
Right, when
Okay,
she's done, you'll
sorry.
get a whole time and you can tell me, you can take as long as you want to tell me
Alright.
stuff.
Thank you.
He is eligible for earned release. Obviously, the court is aware of the mental health diagnoses, so there's rehabilitation as far as that is concerned as well. We do ask the court to adopt the independent report writer's recommendations.
Okay. There's only one thing that really stood out to me when the DA was talking, like maybe that I only feel sorry because, oh, now I'm in trouble or whatever, but in all actuality, I really don't feel like sorry for myself at all. Like, I accept the situation for what it is. So I mean, I'm not going to say that maybe that's a thing with other people or whatever, but for me personally, I really truly don't feel sorry for myself about being in trouble. You know, I accept it for what it is. And it, regardless of what happens here today, it doesn't really matter because I've already decided that I'll turn this into a positive thing no matter what happens. So, I mean, it seems like everything in life is kind of like a cyclic thing. And I've kind of started to notice, the more observant I've been, the more I've noticed, even while being under the influence or suffering from stuff that's not, you know, favorable or whatever, but like everything's kind of cyclic. And if I remain in a certain cyclic pattern, it just continues, you know? So if I really just decide within myself that I'm going to turn something into a positive, I think I can do that. I believe that I can do that. That's kind of what I've decided already. But either way, like I said, again, I do not feel sorry for myself. I do feel remorse for the people, not so much for like stolen items, even though that's important as well, but literally because if it was me and I was them, I would feel uncomfortable going there based on the fact that what if someone's lurking around a corner or whatever, or if you have kids and you're bringing them there, they could feel uncomfortable. That's what I feel remorseful about the most. So with that said, I don't feel sorry for myself. I accept the situation for what it is. So
Thank you, Mr.
that's all I
Weaver.
have to say.
What did you mean by the statement where you said you don't feel guilty, but you do feel remorse?
I don't feel guilty because that seems like a feeling that would be like, oh, I feel guilty, like it's a me thing more or less. So I don't feel guilty, I feel remorse. I just look at the situation for what it is. It was a mistake, something that I feel remorseful for because there was victims involved that didn't deserve it, and I accept it for what it is. So I don't feel guilty because that, to me, guilt seems like a feeling that would revolve around the self more or less. And I'm trying to like rid myself of things that are like self-serving, even if it's like self-loathing or something like that, you know?
I think I'm understanding what you're saying. You feel, you know, you're guilty and you're admitting guilt to these crimes.
Yeah, yeah,
And so in that sense, you are guilty.
yeah, but I don't feel the guilt feeling per
Like,
se.
you may feel shame for committing
Oh,
these
yeah,
crimes
it's
and
embarrassing.
how you were there, but it's not one where you're going to let this weigh you down.
Correct, yes,
If that's how I'm hearing what you're saying.
correct.
Okay. You had a pretty traumatic childhood, both with your mother and growing up, and then with the relationships that she had and the men that she brought into your life. And I believe you're the youngest of 5 kids. All right. So yeah, youngest of 5 kids. And so you, as the youngest, got to see all of the stuff because the other kids grew up, got old, moved out, all of those things. So you got the brunt of it, probably. You were incarcerated and somebody bailed you out. It's a lot of money. And then I don't know what happened from then to when you came back into our custody. But at that time, you posed it, you showed like you didn't accept the responsibility. You weren't going to accept the responsibility. And you didn't care at that time.
To an extent, yeah.
And at this time, I can tell that you really have a clear mind, clear head. And as it was stated in Mr. Schmidt's argument about the diagnoses of having the social personality disorder and all, whatever the other things are. I wanted to make that statement to you right when I did, since it was being brought out. A lot of people are diagnosed with personality disorders or those types of things, some type of disorder. They may have to take medication for it. They may have to do a lot of therapy for it, but that doesn't define you and who you can be as a human and as a contributing member of a community. I think you want that, Mr. Avery. I truly do think that you want that. You want people to like you, to respect you, to look up to you, or to think of you as more of a contributor or a helper than a taker or a thief.
Right. It's embarrassing, honestly.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
And I was really disappointed, not in you and not in the program, but disappointed that when you were in Washburn County Treatment Court, that didn't help. It didn't work. What do you think needs to trigger in your mind for you to, when you're released from custody, have a plan to stay sober?
I believe a lot of it falls on me, you know, like if I don't open up myself and accept certain things and decide within myself if I'm going to do something, it's just not going to happen. And in the past, I've been relatively clammed up with people. Like I don't necessarily like sharing things that are personal. I don't necessarily like accepting advice either because I have a hard time trusting people. So for a long time, it's kind of been like wandering around in the darkness, you know, like I never could understand people very well or like who to trust or who not to trust. And all I knew is that when you do open yourself up to people, you usually get hurt. So with that, I kind of just keep stuff to myself, and I have in the past. And I guess moving forward, maybe it's because I'm getting a little older or something. I've spent a lot of time reading books, and I've been fortunate since I've been in here that someone sends me books to read, and they mostly focus around like discovery, self-discovery. And I, spent quite a bit of time just, contemplating stuff, and like, I think I have a little bit better grasp on being able to tell if someone means me harm or well off things or something. So if I decide within myself that I want to make a change in the right direction, I think it'll be more productive. And with that being said, I'll be more open to taking in information and advice from others that might be more experienced than myself.
That makes a lot of sense, especially because no one can change unless they want to.
Exactly.
Understandable. I believe that you only knew Miss Mortensen for a few months before all of this.
Yeah, it was a pretty short period of time.
Very short period of time before you broke into and destroyed property at the first cabin or the first place. And then it happened after that. It kept going, and even then hit one twice. What do you think that did to that family?
Honestly, it'd be hard to even really grasp or wrap my head around it, but I'm sure it's horrible. I mean, like I said, if it was me, you go there and like who and when and when's it going to happen again? And like, you don't want to encounter somebody that you don't know that's, like he said, potentially dangerous,
And there was a lot of talk or argument from the state where you can be explosive and unpredictable and violent because you act on impulse. I believe that to be true, especially when you're under the influence of substances. And I would believe that you believe that to be true as well. I also believe that when you are free from substances and you are in a place as you are here today, that you may be a little bit more impulsive because that's where therapy comes in and you have to work with therapy. But I think that if situations were occurring today, you would be less explosive, less violent, and have less of those extreme negative tendencies. Do you admit all of that's true?
I've had moments where, yeah, I've lost my temper and I'm not proud of it, but it happens, and it has happened.
And so at times you could be explosive and violent, not beating up some person or something like that, but
Yeah.
with violent actions, correct?
Yeah.
I wish we had Mr. Weaver today all the time.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm going to tell you that it will take a lot of work on your part, a lot of work. And it does take therapy, and therapy takes trust, at least with one individual where you can talk to that person and trust that individual. But there is that confidentiality, because I truly think that it will help you with the disorders and your feelings, to be able to talk to somebody and have a therapist and do that. I think that will help a lot, especially if you are going to continue down a path of sobriety. Because again, your childhood and the death of your brother, who I think you called your closest and probably only friend.
Yeah, he was pretty cool.
So my condolences for the loss of your brother. And sentencing, you've been here before. You've been here a lot of times, and I looked at, well, maybe not here, but mostly Washburn County and over there. But you know what a sentencing judge has to do. I have to go through certain factors and go through certain things that I have to first look at the nature and the gravity of the offenses here. And here we're dealing with, well, 5 burglaries, but you pled guilty to 4, 5 just because it was one that affected one family twice. And you're pleading guilty to that obstructing of the officer. The obstruction isn't as high on the seriousness as the burglaries. And we've already went over why. Thank God no one was present at the places, because then it could have been violent. I have to look at you and your history, and that's why this whole discussion of disorders that you may have been diagnosed with and how you can move forward, and a plan that you can take in order to address them. And I'm going to tell you, and to keep the demons at bay. Okay? And I'm not saying you're a demon, I'm not calling you evil, or I'm not saying any of that, but keep that at bay and be the person that you want to be. You want to be liked and respected and looked up to, and you want a community to surround you, not to repel you. I have to look at needing to protect the public, and in doing that, I also have to look at things such as deterrence, deterring you specifically from committing crimes like this again. Because I'm going to tell you, on your list of crimes that you've been convicted of, these are the most serious. And I have to look at general deterrence, making sure that generally people understand that they cannot commit these crimes, these types of crimes, and that they'll be deterred from doing so, because they'll understand that there will be penalties, there will be punishment. This is not something that they can engage in. I have to look at the victim input and where they are, and if they're able to be made whole, property-wise, emotionally-wise. That's not something that I can do, or you can do, quite honestly. Even if you were to write a letter of apology, sometimes it's hard for people to be able to move on and get over an incident, especially a burglary. I'm trying to think if anything else stood out. It just seems like you have had a difficult childhood and a difficult time adjusting from that childhood to adulthood. And with your diagnoses, you've been self-medicating. You've been trying to make everything stay at bay and trying to make yourself feel normal by using the substances. I think I'm hitting it right on the head, and you're nodding your head up and down.
Yeah, you're not far off, definitely. Everybody wants to feel good,
And you were trying to run from the bad.
pretty much.
Mr. Weaver, I do think that you have the ability to be that person that you want to be. I truly do. You have to stay in this capacity, and you're going to have to work. And as hard as it is for you to be able to trust people, it's hard for me to trust people. You know, you're going to have to learn to trust some people. And you're going to have to learn, hopefully, to trust a therapist and talk some of these things through. Therapy is good for everybody. For anyone and everybody should have therapy where they know they can say anything that they want. It's confidential unless you're going to hurt somebody, harm yourself, something like that. It's confidential. Or they could lose their license. Because I think that's one of the only ways that you're going to be able to work through this. You can't do it alone, and you shouldn't do it alone. I'm going to sentence you to six and a half years of initial confinement, all concurrent. And I'm going to do 5 years of extended supervision. I'm trying to calculate it where there'd be the punishment aspect of sitting time. But if you truly want to do the substance abuse programming, then you'll get that benefit of getting the earned early, the earned release or early release. And then you'll take it seriously. Or if you decide you don't want to do that route, then you have more punishment. It's going to be in your hands, be able to determine that. You're an intelligent man. I believe it was referred to as highly intelligent man. So why waste that? Okay, why waste that? If you're given an opportunity in prison to get a profession or certification or something, use that. If you're able to do the welding, use that. We need more welders. If you're able to do plumbing, figure that out and do that. We need more plumbers. Okay? And you can make a lot of money doing those things. And then as you're on your path to sobriety and you're released, and if you have those certifications, then you can have your own business instead of having somebody see, oh, look at how much of a felon he is. Okay? You know? Right. So that's a way to focus, and hopefully you can keep that on your vision board. All right? Please move forward and do good. Be good. And don't just try to do something, actually do it. And use your mind. And be something better. Be something that you're meant to be, not what this defines you as. Okay?
In this courtroom case, a habitual burglar stood before the judge hoping for mercy after pleading guilty to multiple burglary charges and 1 count of obstructing law enforcement. The defendant admitted that years of drug addiction, mental health struggles, and a difficult childhood had led him down the wrong path. During the hearing, he expressed genuine remorse, explaining that he felt sorry for the victims who no longer felt safe in their own homes. The judge carefully listened to both sides. While acknowledging the defendant's honesty and willingness to change, the court also emphasized his long criminal history and repeated failures on probation. Prosecutors argued that the crimes were serious because several cabins were broken into, valuable property was stolen, and one victim's home was targeted more than once. Instead of focusing only on punishment, the judge spent considerable time encouraging the defendant to rebuild his life. She urged him to seek therapy, overcome his addiction, and learn valuable job skills such as welding or plumbing while in prison. The judge believed he had the intelligence and potential to become a productive member of society if he truly committed to change. However, because of the seriousness of the crimes and the need to protect the public, the court sentenced him to 6.5 years in prison, followed by 5 years of extended supervision. The judge concluded with a powerful message, telling him not to let his past define his future and to use his time in prison as an opportunity to become a better person. This case is a reminder that while courts may recognize personal struggles and offer hope for rehabilitation, repeated criminal behavior still carries serious consequences.